Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
And we will have guests stopping by, in fact, tomorrow and Monday.
Oh, okay. Nice, good weekend worth. 4 straight days of fun.
Yeah, so we'll do that. All right, so last night, there are usually 3 spots where a team can win or lose a game.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious one is the end.
It's a fair point.
Usually, I would say in that area between the under 12 and the under 8 in the second half is normally the other spot where you can lose the game or win the game. Or win the game. I'm talking about winning it. The other one is the least obvious of all, and that is the first half.
Yes.
It is, everybody's, the end of the game. It's like, okay, it's a 40-minute game. Or in football, it's a 60-minute game. You can win the game in the first half, or you can lose the game in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
The last 15 minutes of the first half is where Penn State lost the game last night, and Michigan State won it. Where they went out and built as much as a 17-point lead, got it to a 14-point cushion. 3 different times Penn State got it to 8 in the second half, including the end. The other 2, of course, they got it to 8. And they had opportunities because Michigan State went through a couple of droughts, and Penn State went through the same drought, same time, and could not get 8 to 5 or get 8 down to 2 because they couldn't get back over.
Yeah,
they couldn't string together enough to put more game pressure on Michigan State. And so you can lose games or win games in the first half. Anybody that listens to this show knows I've said that forever and ever. Nobody listens to it, but you're like, that's not true. The end of the game, it's like, okay, I got you. The end of the game. It's like, have a good time at the tailgate. It's like good. And that's how it played out last night. Penn State did not lose the game from the under 12 to the under 8. They didn't lose the game at the end. They ended up losing the game in the first half. 45-31 at halftime. And they were down 17, I don't know, 2 minutes ago in the first half. And the problem is that you can make runs at teams. So they make a run at them. So Penn State outscores Michigan State by 9 points. Between the final 2 minutes of the first half and, 13 minutes ago, so that's 9 minutes. They outscored them by 9 points. They're still 8 down. Michigan State then hit a shot. They're down 10. Okay, Penn State got stopped. Michigan State came down and got another shot. Now Penn State's down 12. That's the problem when you're trying to mount a comeback. You have to keep staying on track because they get back-to-back buckets, and now it's back to a margin again.
Yes, and I want to talk about the game because I was not there last night. I did not get to watch it. I was catching back up on sleep, so I was not able to catch the game. But just statistically, yesterday we talked about going into the game, they needed to hit probably double-digit threes. They went 12 for 23.
Yep.
So they went 50% on threes. Zach Hicks, 5 for 6, is the person who we said needs to have a good game, and 5 for 6 is as good as you could get.
He was great, and I said in the pregame show last night, they hit 10 threes. I said they're going to be in good shape in this game. Well, they had 12.
They had 12 threes, and they went 12 for 12 from the line. Ace on his own went 8 for 8. So you've got those 2 factors going for you.
Except who did I say was going to be the key player going into the game?
Was it Hogard?
No.
Forget.
No,
it's Willie Call. And Willie Call then dropped 29 points.
Which is a career high. I said he was the key guy going in because he's the guy that you can't match up with.
He dropped a 29-point double-double.
Okay. For the 1,000th time in the world of analytics, in the world of I'm the smartest person at the tailgate, okay? It's about scheme. It's about coaching. It's like it's all about
matchups. Yes.
Who can I match up with and who can't I match up with? And if I can't match up with him, can I mask it? Okay?
Yes.
Well, guess what? He is the guy that, and this happens over and over again. I've said this. He's been in this league 5 years. Right? He's been in longer than Caitlin Clark. Okay? He's been in 5 years. Okay? And to me, he's always been one of the toughest matchups in this league because of his inside-out ability and how physical he can get when he gets inside, and the fact that he's got a touch from the outside and he can hit free throws. I said he's always been, to me, one of the 5 toughest matchups. I didn't say he's one of the 5 best players.
He's one of the toughest matchups.
He's one of the toughest matchups in this league. Is that guy?
He's 6'8". He's big. He can do everything you just said. Like it's tough to find a guy who's 6'8" to guard him, because a lot of times in college, at that point you go up to a big and they aren't mobile enough to guard him, or you go down to someone smaller who then he'll bully. Trying to find someone who's a legitimate wing at this case. If he's in the NBA, he's a wing, is what he is. So finding someone to match up with him is going to be tough just from a size perspective. But I want to ask, because just, again, numerically, pretty much tied on free throws. You lost by 2 free throws technically, but it's close enough. And Penn State's used to not getting as many free throws as other teams, so that's whatever.
That doesn't bother
but 3-point wise, you double them up. You hit 12, they hit 6. So that's Mike Rhodes is like, that's a win for us. It seems like they didn't shoot well in the restricted area or going to the basket. Like, that's just my guess based on the stats and assuming.
Part of this is not having Qudus Wahab for most of the night. He's been fighting something for a couple of days. He walked past me on yesterday's game was Wednesday. So he walked past me on Monday and then on Tuesday, and each time he was coughing a lot. I was like, I said, is he all right? They said, yeah, we think he'll be fine. Well, yesterday, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're done with shooting around. He doesn't feel well. He started, but he tried to give it a go. He blocked 3 shots early in the game, but not having him, and this is nothing to do with favor Ira.
Yeah.
You can run sets to Q out of timeouts. You can run the pick and roll effectively with Q because, for the most part, he's got pretty good hands.
He's got good hands. He rolls really well.
I mean, and it's not as if Fave didn't block a couple of shots, but there were a couple times underneath where they ran the pick and roll to him, and his hands betrayed him. All right, and that was an issue.
Yeah.
But as I tell people all the time, the next man up thing is great. And somebody has to play, so play as well as you can. But there is a reason the other dude starts.
Yes, there's a reason Q is starting.
There's usually multiple reasons why the other guy starts.
And just so Q having his
you lose the
illness
rim,
is tough.
you lose whatever rim protection you had. And Q, to his credit, has become a better shot blocker. But whatever rim protection you had, whatever rebounding that you had, was sitting on the bench for long stretches, which then opened up the lane for Michigan State to get a lot of point-blank shots in the game. And look, the ability to run even off of made baskets, that's how they beat the press. They just went, boom, let's go. Mike worked on that for a couple of days with them, about transition over and over again. And most of the guys got it. Not everybody.
And I want to jump next to the guy who's basically been a superhero for the past 2 weeks, it seemed, Ace Baldwin. Like, he played 40 minutes again this week. He's the guy. No one else got above 28, mind you. He's going full games now. Right. He went 3 for 11 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. He, of course, hit all 8 free throws, which is perfect. Yeah. But how did he play yesterday in comparison to how you've seen him? He had 7 assists, which is, again, a strong total from him.
2 turnovers.
With 2 turnovers, no steals.
I thought he was good.
Okay.
He was good, but he wasn't great. I'd say good to very good, but not great. So he's good to very good and not great. He had it. One of the issues that I felt in the game, and it was the first question I asked Mike in the post-game show. Okay. What?
Oh boy! Because for me,
no, Jerome sent me a text about getting Nebraska stats off their website. Do you know how hard I had to fight to get Nebraska stats off their website? It was very difficult.
It was violent.
I got to figure out how to answer him, which I will. But
yes, so
but
Ace.
No, I'm talking about the unforced errors in the game. Okay, Zach Hicks that gets the ball steps out of bounds. Jameel Brown gets the ball on the sideline, steps out of bounds. Because they're trying to make that move. It's just, it's not like they're catching the ball out of bounds. They catch it in bounds. Back. Then they put a foot back as a launching point to get going, and they step out of bounds, so they do it. There was a pass to DeMarco Dunn. I can't remember. It may have been Ace that threw it. Maybe not. But it was to DeMarco. Completely missed him. It goes out of bounds. Kanye Clary goes to throw it to Ace, throws it out of bounds. All right, those are 4 unforced errors where you have possession of the ball and do not get a shot.
Yes,
and to me,
and speaking on turnovers, real quick, Nick Kern as well, 5 turnovers. It seems like a lot. Because that is a number you never want to see.
No, you never want to see that. But you know what? Nick's been playing really well. Some of it was trying to force something, and he got underneath the bucket, and he got to be honest with you, he got fouled. But and that's a turnover. Sometimes, a couple times, maybe he forced it too much. Those are turnovers. So yeah, he had 5 in the game. I didn't realize. I thought he had maybe 2 or 3, but I didn't realize he had 5. And that happens. But his turnovers are out of effort.
He's trying to do something, and he turns the ball over.
He's trying to make something happen. They're behind. He's trying to make something happen. That's you call for an offensive foul, or that's offensive fouls or turnovers. You get into traffic, you're trying to make a play. So, I mean, his turnovers were out of, I'm really trying to make something happen here. And you actually need to have the game come to you a little bit. It's especially over the first 32 minutes of a game. Let the game come to you. Now with 8 minutes to go, what does the game dictate I do? Right? Time, score, situation. So then you may want to force it a little bit more. But I can say that because I've been sitting there watching it for decades and decades, and their kids trying to play the game, and they've got it in front of them, and I'm trying to think exactly how many in-game mistakes on the floor I've made in my life. How about none, because I don't play?
Yes.
I don't play. So that's why, and Nick is just...
He's awesome.
I tell you right now, one of the elements that Mike does need to build, and Mike hasn't even been here a year yet, but he opened up his press conference with it, and I was going to talk to him about it tonight anyway, which we will anyway. You have to now, after putting that 59 days of grabbing parts to try and see if you could put together a team. It wasn't like they went out and said, hey, let's get 9 transfers here and then 1 freshman, and we'll just get the 9 best guys we can find, right? And it turns out they're all guards. Or we got the 9 best guys that we can find, and they're
there's no one who's
mostly
no
forwards.
Point guards.
He tried to put together a team, couple of centers, couple of forwards, guards, All right. But in this putting it together, and I'll give you an example. What do they do at the end of when it's all over with, at the end of the game? They go out at home. They sing the alma mater. All right. That's a different topic, different day. I think you know how I feel about it, because I've seen it. This is something where you kind of wish people would ask you an opinion once in a while, like when they did this, because I'd seen it on the road in other places when teams lost, and they're just standing there like, what am I doing? But That's a different topic.
Different topic, different day.
Okay. Do it before the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. That's only my opinion, you know. And in football, they do it before the game. But you have a bunch of guys down there that have except for now, and except for now wearing the uniform, they have no deep allegiance to Penn State. Which now brings us to the next part. And that is the ability to build a culture that is the culture of Penn State basketball. Now, Mike Rhodes may not be a Penn Stater, but Mike Rhodes is a Penn Stater in terms of attitude, feeling, the whole deal. And having Joe Crispin on his staff reinforces that part of it. But you have to have it within the locker room. A guy like Nick really reinforces it. A guy like Puff Johnson really reinforces it. And when you have a group of people coming together, it takes a while to build that. Because when you build it, you then have accountability.
Yeah.
In football, I will see, for example, Kalen King, Johnny Dixon pull aside Zion Tracy and Elliott Washington and explain to them how they need to play a certain play. They're starters. They're secure in themselves. They know who's starting the next game. It's not the two guys they're talking to, but they're going to be leaving, and down the road they talk to them. The number of times I've seen Curtis Jacobs talk to Abdul Carter, right? The number of times I've seen Chop Robinson talk to Denai Dennis Sutton, and then see Denai Dennis Sutton talk to Jamel Lyons. All right? The number of times I've seen Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren talk to Khalil Dinkins or Rappley, Andrew Rappley. I mean, it's just, you know, where it's not coming from the coaches, it's coming from the players. Some of this comes from the players in the current form. Ace does talk to a lot of guys. Nick talks to a lot of guys. But you need to have that trickle down in the culture that is a Penn State culture, a Penn State basketball culture. Michigan State has a Michigan State basketball culture. And you notice with Michigan State, Hogarth's been there 4 years. Hall's been there 5 years. Sissoko's been there 4 years. Now, Walker's a transfer from Northeastern, but he's still been there 3 years. I believe Walker is the only transfer on the entire roster at Michigan State. So they've been with Tom the entire time, working their way through the system to get to this point. Now, is it Michigan State's best team? No, it's not. But that's who they are. Now, Penn State will go to Nebraska tomorrow. And at Nebraska, all they have done over the years, whether it was Tim Miles, whom I like very much, or Fred Hoiberg, again, another guy I like very much, but they've done it with a hodgepodge of transfers. Now, they have recruited some people that have stayed within the program. Kisei Tominaga, right, who has Caitlin Clark range. Okay. Jamarcus Lawrence. But everybody else, Mast is a transfer. Aleto's a transfer. C.J. Wilcher, he's been there a while now, but he was a transfer, right? They have a lot of transfers they brought together, and a lot of times there it hasn't worked. Right now it's working. But you have to have the right combination of guys, because you want to know the number of transfers I've seen transfer in and then leave that program? It's a long list. But I think that in order to have sustainable success at Penn State, you need to build your culture from the ground up. And that means you have to start building it with freshmen, which Mike has done. Mike has what? Three signed and 2 verbals, so he's got 5 commitments. All right? And you need to start with that as your foundation moving forward. And then mix in a transfer here and there. And work from there, because that's how you build your culture. And you don't want to get yourself into an all transfer situation or it's not all. Let's say
largely transfer.
A mostly transfer situation for this reason. How many times have we seen in football and in basketball before the transfer portal, people going the junior college route, and they'll bring in a bunch of junior college players, which at the moment is a Band-Aid to keep you competitive. But what happens in 2 years? Oh, wait, we have to do it again. We have to do it again. We have to do it again. And that's what happens with the transfer portal. You got to keep doing it over and over and over instead of having people come through your system and then fit in a part here or there. Michigan State is now at the point where they're fitting in a part here or there. Okay? And that's where Mike's going. And Mike's got the right idea as to exactly how to do it. And sure, one of the toughest things to do with long-suffering fans who enjoyed the fruits of an NCAA tournament run last year that got them into the second round is to look at them and say, look, just hang with me, just be patient a little bit. And then you've got some people out there saying, well, geez, I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, how much patience do you want? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't blame them. They're the ones that have been here the whole time, the fans. Well, and me. It doesn't matter about me. Who cares? I'm just making a joke. But it'll take a little bit, but we'll win. Well, everybody wants to win now. Example: Ohio State. Chris Holtmann got fired yesterday. Chris Holtmann did a good job at Ohio State. Awesome and incredible job. No, but he did a good job at Ohio State. But he got lucky and unlucky at the same time. He was very fortunate to recruit a guy named Malachi Branham.
Not bad.
Okay? But they did not think when they recruited him he was a one and done. They thought he'd be there at least a couple of years, maybe 3. And all of a sudden the guy blows up during the season, and he's a one and done. They were counting on him to be part of the foundation moving forward. Now we're going to add in Bruce Thornton. We're going to add in Roddy Gale. And now they don't have that focal point scorer because guess what? He ended up being a one and done, which they did not count on. And he ends up losing his job over it.
And now Branham is taking his talents and lobbing balls to Victor Wembanyama.
Right. But again, they did not think he would be a one and done. They thought he'd be really good. They knew Sensabaugh was a one and done. They knew that when they got him. Hey, we got Sensabaugh. Like Sensabaugh was supposed to be like the one and done guy, so he was going to be the guy getting the shots, making the plays. And as the season went, Branham was just as good, and at times better. I thought at the end of the season, Branham was better than Sensabaugh in terms of the college game. Well, suddenly you lose both the guys when you thought you'd lose one. And that just changes everything when you only have 5 starters and you're only playing 8, 9 guys. It changes everything for you as to what you're doing and how good you can be. He ends up losing his job over it because they couldn't replace him. And now they're looking for a coach, and now we'll see how the dominoes fall on that one. And that's going to be interesting to see whether I think Ross Bjork is the one that has to make that hire, not Gene Smith. I know he doesn't officially start till June 30th, but this has got to be Ross Bjork's hire only because Gene's retiring, and Ross should be able to say to Gene, that's the guy I want. I mean, that's how I look at it. Right? It can't be Gene's hire and Ross then inherits it. Right? Yeah. It's got to be one where he's on board with it. And that's why I go back to the Big Ten men's basketball tournament next year going 15 out of 18. That's a coach-killing move.
And so is the ACC, by the way, doing the same thing.
It's a coach-killing move. Okay? Why should, let's just pick, Fairleigh Dickinson have a better shot at getting to the NCAA tournament in March than a Big Ten team? Now, neither one's going to get there. I mean, I know Fairleigh Dickinson got them. Dickinson, but they shouldn't have been in. Fairleigh Dickinson should not have been in last year's tournament. They did not win the regular season. They didn't win the conference tournament. Merrimack did, but because of the bizarro world NCAA rules, whatever, they weren't
eligible
transitioned enough into whatever.
They weren't James Madison yet.
James Madison, and what was the other one? Jacksonville State?
Yeah, Jacksonville State. So they got kind of screwed there. And this year, if you're getting rid of the bottom 3 teams, and I don't know what records are currently off the top of my head in terms of the teams coming in, but if the bottom 3 teams are not in, it's Rutgers, Ohio State, and Michigan State are not making the Big Ten tournament. Michigan, my bad.
Okay, right. But to be honest with you, the teams coming in, USC's really struggling. We talked about that yesterday. They've lost 6 of their last 7. There would be a chance that they would be in that bottom group. Washington has really struggled. They might be fighting to be in that bottom group. Oregon's okay. Believe it or not, they're actually the best of the 4 because UCLA they have shocked me. They are not playing well. And that's now Mick Cronin. I've met enough of these guys over the years where I've talked to them enough where I apologize. I use first names, so my apologies. Okay. Mick Cronin had this great base for a long time. Well, the base finally,
is gone.
I mean, I don't know. I these days, I don't know if you can use the word graduated or not. I'm not sure, but they're not there anymore. They ran out of eligibility. How about that?
Yeah.
And he's kind of had to start over. So how good they will be next year, I don't know. USC, I'd have to look at their roster, but is Ellis back next year? I thought maybe this was it for him.
Boogie Ellis is a senior.
Yeah, and I think Rodman's a senior too, the transfer from Washington State, Dennis Rodman's son. So those are 2 guys they lose. I have no idea what their recruiting class is. And then, of course, we'll find out what Bronny James wants to do. Okay? Oregon is good, not great. Washington is struggling to the point where Mike Hopkins, it's going to be interesting to see what they want to do with a new athletic director there. Okay? Let's see, Pac-12 basketball standings. Pac-12, got them. Okay, I'm shocked. Arizona's in first.
Who would have thought that?
Who would have thought that? Washington State's second. Oregon right now is third. UCLA, to its credit, has come back. They're 8-5 now in the league, 13-11 overall. Then it's Colorado, Stanford, Arizona State, Utah, Cal. Washington is 5-8 in the league, 13-11. USC's 3-10 in the league, 9-15. They're in 11th place. Washington's in 10th.
By the way, in terms of recruits, you asked about that. ESPN's 26th ranked recruit, Trent Perry, is going to USC. Zoom Diallo, the 29th, is going to Washington. Both of them are point guards. And Oregon's got the number 41, Victorious Miller, who's also is a shooting guard. He is signed to Oregon. Those are the only guys in the top 50 who are joining those crew.
Because you have to start thinking about what the league's going to look like next year, and you have to start thinking about it now.
And USC has 2 more recruits in the top 100, and UCLA has 1.
Right. Look, USC and UCLA have been consistently at or around the NCAA tournament. So the question is, this particular season, is it
time catching up with them?
No, is it an aberration? Like that transition time? It's also going to be interesting to see how well they recruit now being in the Big Ten. Does that make any difference, pro or con? Okay, pro or con. Does it make any difference about them being in the Big Ten?
Because out of USC's recruits they have coming in next year, the top guys you have Colorado, or you have California, you have Idaho, and you have Utah. So you're recruiting out west, but now you can recruit out east, because you could say, well, hey, let's say in a hypothetical world, they could try and go for a guy who is from Philadelphia and say, but we're going to play in and around Philly. We're going to play in and around Pennsylvania. We're going to be in the area this coming season, so you can come join us and you can see your family when you go play them.
But let's flip it around.
People will go down to California and get all the Cali kids.
You can go to California and get the deal.
The most interesting place is going to be, will they try and go into a Maryland? Because Maryland is known for just basketball players, just hammering them out year in, year out. And I wonder what now that looks like. And it's going to be interesting next year, especially because like Rutgers gets 2 of the top 3 guys in Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And that's going to screw with everybody, because if you're looking at the standings where they are, one of the bottom 3 schools currently in the Big Ten all of a sudden gets should be better, because you get 2 guys who are probably going to be NBA bound in a year as one and dones, but they're dominant. Ace Bailey's a 6'8" small forward who is scary, and Dylan Harper's the better of the Harper children, and he's joining in with Ace Bailey. So,
we will see. We'll see what how each transitions in. I always take a wait and see mode. Caitlin Clark goes for the record tonight in women's basketball. She's 8 points away. Only once in her career has she been in single digits, and that was 3 years ago, and she scored 8. That's the lowest number she's ever had. Since that point, the lowest number she's had in a game has been 15. So she should be able to knock this thing out
by halftime
in the first quarter.
Yeah,
if she hits 3-3, she's good. She's done it. She should be able to knock the thing out in the first quarter. Now, Mike DeCourcy of Sporting News, longtime friend. Never says that to me. No, longtime friend. Wrote a very interesting article about some of the snarky things that have been said about Caitlin Clark. Not by guys, but by others in the women's game.
Do tell. I want to hear this.
I mean, a couple things that Don Staley has said, a couple things that Kim Mulkey has said, a couple things that Cheryl Swoops has said, right? You're going through this list of like, what are you doing here? I don't get it. I think it was Kim Mulkey says something about, well, we don't have anybody on our team taking 40 shots a game, right? You know how many shots a game Caitlin Clark averages? 23. Okay. Now, I'd like to point out that is actually number 1 in the nation.
Yes.
But she's averaging 1.4 points per shot.
She's averaging like 28 points a game, so I think it's fair she shoots as much as that.
Yeah. So, now look, she has had, when you played a long time, and she's been a focal point for about a year. No offense, but about a year. Because remember, Iowa the year before was they were bounced early in the tournament and the whole thing. Like, everybody's like, yeah, she's a good player, right? So now the phenomenon of what is Caitlin Clark is really about a year old. And what she did in the tournament, gets Iowa to the championship game, all right? The flair with which she does things. But, but it was, I found some of the comments reading Mike's article to be really interesting. And when you're trying to promote your game, which for the first time in a long time has a little bit of momentum. People thought there was going to be momentum when Shamika Holesclaw and let's go all the way back to Cheryl Miller. It's going to be a little momentum then. And then it was going to be with Shamika Holesclaw in Tennessee, and with Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird with the UConn. There's there's incremental improvements in terms of growing the national fan base. And then she comes along, and when she comes along, now you've got more people watching. Okay. All right. And now you've got people in the sport taking a couple little shots here and there. And like, what are we doing here?
Like you could get you saw the lines that were out there for Nebraska, for that Nebraska game against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. They were lined up blocks around because they wanted to go and watch her play at 6 a.m.
No question.
Like that doesn't happen without Caitlin Clark doing what she's doing.
Right. So the comments have been, what baffles me about it is that it seems like there are some people within her own sport that resent her. And she's at least getting people to watch.
There is a very easy comparison I'm going to make in terms of how I can view how this is going, which is the same as what Steph Curry did when he started playing really well for the Warriors, is the idea that, like, as we've seen today in the NBA, Steph changed how NBA teams are constructed, how they're built and how they operate, and the three-pointers and all that stuff. And at the start of that Warriors run, when they first started really playing well and winning with Steph, Clay, Draymond, Andrew Bogut, like, people were turned off by that and said, you can't win doing that. Like, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Like, you can't take 40 shots a game. I don't want someone taking 40 shots a game, but it's winning Iowa basketball games. And it's drawing in crowds for Iowa to help the program get better, help make money for the program, help do this, that, and the other. But because they don't have it and they aren't around her, they're disparaging her because it's not about them. And how dare you take spotlight from us in the sport doing something differently? Because she's doing it differently. She's doing it very differently from everyone else, including a Juju Watkins, who is also putting up these crazy numbers every game.
So Don Staley this is Mike's article, Mike DeCourcy, took a pointless sideways swipe at Clark after she nailed a game-winning step-back logo-length three-pointer to defeat Michigan State in January. Clark had been placed in that position after teammate Molly Davis had been fouled on a controversial call. Sank 2 free throws to tie the game at 73. Heck of a shot, but give the game ball to the ref for the shooting foul call. There's a compliment there, as he says, but it's drowning in a cynicism that would seem to be beneath one of the greatest players of all time, in which Don Staley was. Clark, of course, helped lead the elimination of South Carolina in the Final Four last year. And Kim Mulkey at LSU, she takes a passively aggressive shot at Clark's surging popularity and broadening respect. In a very public forum of a pregame press conference, Mulkey surreptitiously submarined Clark with this comment: "We don't have any players shooting 40 times a game like you see around the country. That's not us." Okay.
Cool. Whatever.
Right. Cheryl Swoops, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 1993 NCAA champ at Texas Tech. If Kelsey Plum set the record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broken that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she has the extra year to break the record. It turned out that's not true. Yeah. She's in her fourth year.
Turned out, yeah, she's in her fourth actual season of college basketball. Fun fact.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But again, I don't understand why within a sport that has really had to fight for every inch of respect,
you're given half a foot here with Caitlin Clark, right, moving you forward.
She's been part of the reason why they were respected by everybody, but they didn't
bring a crowd.
Right. North Carolina women's soccer won 4 national championships. They're really, really good. They brought a lot of attention to the sport, but what did they really advance the sport? No, the women's national team did that because of what they've done in the World Cup and the Olympics. All right. You've got to take your victories anywhere you can find them in your sport. Take your victories where you can find them. Celebrate them. Right? Don't get petty about it. I guess the entire sport looks bad when a Kim Mulkey takes a veiled shot at a 22-year-old young woman. The entire sport looks bad when Don Staley takes a shot in talking about a referee. Right? The entire sport looks bad when Cheryl Swoops, who's one of the all-time greats in the sport, takes a swipe at. What are you taking swipes at it for? I thought the entire goal was to get people to watch. Now, I think they're putting it on Peacock tonight, so that defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But still, that I don't get that. I don't get it at all. When do you see, for example, in men's college basketball, people taking swipes at people? Oh, well, I mean, who the heck's the leading scorer in the Big Ten right now? I have no idea. Is it, who knows? Yeah, who is the leading scorer in the Big Ten?
We are trying to find it as we speak.
It is.
Give me your best guess as to who you think.
Who do I think it is?
Who do you think is the number one, the lead scorer?
Because most guys are averaging, like the leading scorers are averaging in the teens.
Give me your guess as to who you think is the number one scorer in the Big Ten. Give me a guess.
All right.
Don't think too hard.
Don't think too hard?
Don't think too hard. It's Zach Edey's 23.3 points. Right. Behind him, if you're counting at home, is, as expected, Terrence Shannon Jr.
Right, who takes shots at Zach Edey? Now, Terrence Shannon is a different...
That's the legal battle going on.
With the legal battle, that's a different... That's a conversation we're not going to have. All right? But nobody goes out and goes, oh, Zach Edey's just a big guy. Like, everybody's like, oh, how do you stop that?
Yeah.
Nobody takes shots at Zach Edey.
You know what's fun to watch and who's not taking shots at a Caitlin Clark, though? Gino Auriemma. Nothing. He's only said good things about her. He keeps on saying, like, she's awesome and she's helping our sport grow, and I'm totally here for it.
Those are the same things he said about Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi and Rebecca Lobo and Jen Rosati and Nikisha Sales and... all the other great players that he has had at UConn and Paige, and remember, Beckers was, in that recruiting class, Beckers was supposed to be the one, but injuries have derailed her, right, from being that one, and Caitlin Clark has taken it. Now, the maturity of Caitlin Clark on the floor has been interesting to watch because she took whatever shot whenever she wanted a couple of years ago. And really did not have to be honest with you, her freshman and sophomore years did not have a great feel for the game.
She was just chucking.
Right? Because she didn't have a feel for time, score, and situation. She was taking shots. It's like the play caller that doesn't do things in sequencing, is just calling plays. Now, last year, she made great steps forward, and she has over 1,000 career assists, but she has a better sense and knows how to read the room now the last 2 years as to what's working, what's not working, what is a good shot, what's a bad shot, and things like that. That's just with maturity, okay? And now she's put herself in this position. She's a terrific shooter. She is a terrific passer, all right? We'll skip the defense part. Sorry.
You're good.
We'll just skip that part. But to be honest with you, like what happened out at Nebraska, okay, you need to kind of pull a couple people aside and talk to them because it makes you feel, because Lisa Bluter, you could hear her in the background when the Nebraska girls are up, like yelling about, we got to get playing, this is protocol, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Lisa, settle down, okay? I know you lost. Bad, okay? But it makes you feel like all this is starting to get to you. Don't do that, Okay? You're the leader of the whole thing. Don't get into that, right? Okay? Did Nebraska make a mistake and put them up there? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it wasn't intentional.
Mm-mm.
Okay? It wasn't like, oh, yeah, like you act like there's something nefarious going on. Just slow down. I mean, do you think Mike Krzyzewski's in the hallway screaming at somebody about I'm not up there first and we got to catch a plane? Dean Smith? No.
Mm-mm.
John Wooden?
Mm-mm.
Oh, we have to catch a bus. What? We have to catch a bus.
Last note here before we wrap up, because I needed to bring soccer up at some point in time, and how would I not? It has been confirmed probably the best player in the world, Kylian Mbappe, who is 25 right now, 25, is leaving Paris Saint-Germain end of the season. We normally discuss free agency in every sport here on the show.
Yeah, he could be going to Real Madrid, buddy.
He is going to Real Madrid. And free agency doesn't happen.
You act like I know nothing about this.
But free agency doesn't happen in soccer. It's not really a thing because you can kind of leave whenever you want to if the right offer comes in. It's generally how it works. Like, everyone can leave any team at any given time, technically. Free agency doesn't happen, especially for a dude who is entering the prime of his career as a 25-year-old with World Cup titles and pretty much he's the best player in the world. Give it half of a season more and Messi is now in America and Ronaldo's in Saudi Arabia. This dude's number one. He's got the world at his feet and he's going to go join the best midfielder in the world and the best defenders in the world. Like, 25 years old, gets to pick where he wants to play and is going to make a boatload of cash doing it. Doesn't happen often.
Does Caitlin Clark play soccer?
I don't believe she does. She might in her spare time, but I don't believe she does, Steve.
Then why did you bring it up?
How could we not leave the show without talking soccer?
All I know is that it's great for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that. Everybody's talking about her.
Mm-hmm.
Mbappe, I mean, I'm sorry, but does this show, I guess it does technically, it's a podcast, air in Marseille.
It could be viewed in Paris. It could be viewed in Marseille, Lyon. It could be viewed everywhere around the world if you wanted to. Yeah. And it'll air tomorrow with some fun interviews.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.